Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit Shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
You're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. It's more fun to believe. Third year bonus. And welcome to Me and Paranormal You. This is your buddy Ryan Singer. This is a third year bonus. This is a solo episode where I will be guiding you through some things. We got a lot to talk about today. So I hope your weekend was good. I had an incredible weekend. I went and saw the band Fish for the very first time last night at the Hollywood Bowl. I've written down some thoughts regarding that, and we'll just kind of kick off the show discussing that aspect here. So, so here we go. Went to see Fish show last night at the Hollywood Bowl, and it has been a while since I've been to a large venue to see a concert. It did not disappoint. There are some interesting things that happen when you become just a tiny part of a large collective, and you happen to be on a dissociative drug like ketamine at the same time. You are a drop of rain in the ocean of humanity, and you feel the waves, you feel the ebbs, flows, and you feel the love of everyone around you. Is this evidence for idealism and the collective consciousness as opposed to the material nature of the universe? Possibly so. I'm not here to judge one way or the other on this particular night, but I can tell you that in such moments as these, there is no wrong happening, regardless of the dread and dire surroundings that are trapped in the linear timeline you have momentarily been lifted from. Soon enough, you get dropped back down into that timeline, and you feel your feet once again walking the sidewalk of passing seconds. But those brief moments outside of time, you feel free and encompassed by the unity of love and light. It would be a remarkable place to stay, if you could, and maybe you can. I just haven't figured out how to do that yet. But through searches of mysterious traditions and unexplainable phenomena, I believe we can get closer. I do truly believe that. Within all of us lies the capacity for achieving such a thing, such a state and post-physical form. This may be the sensation that is described as heaven or the afterlife. While I'm in no rush to get to that particular place, I understand why others may be. It may be the trick to unlocking our purpose here, while we breathe and sweat and cry and sometimes scream, that it's to find the keys to that and through that with mindfulness, meditation, and acts of love. As I was writing that last sentence a little bit ago, a strange occurrence happened next to me. You can see this tapestry hanging behind me. It was as if it was pulled taut or someone tapped it very loudly. It was enough to make me turn around and jump. If you're watching the video, you can see what I'm talking about here. It was right next to me, which signified significance to me, at least in that moment. Or it could have been a strange breeze from who knows where. The windows are not open in here. It was enough to make me jump and jerk my head to take notice. This is a sign that I should take notice of what I'm writing in this moment and pay more attention to it than I would just a passing fancy or whimsical thought. Finding purpose is a difficult journey, and I suppose it should be to some degree, at least for most of us. I don't want to say that any great insight that is happened upon easily might not be that great at all, but it does feel that with certain diligence, if not struggle, there is a sliding scale of rewards. Life should be easy, and it can be if we get out of our own way. But the reality that I'm facing is that it is not easy most times, and in those times, I am able to gently nudge myself to the side and clear a better path. I can find those excitable jolts, or joints, right? That's when I find those excitable jolts of electricity rush up and down my astral spine as the hairs of my body stand on their ends. Those times, I can become something akin to meditation goosebump incarnate, or get lost in the silliness of synchronicity. These are the moments that my fingers have stumbled upon one of the many keys to unlock purpose. Now, whether or not I can keep a grip on that key is entirely based on if I grip it too tightly. I almost always do. These purposeful keys are much like the serving spoon ladles that some diners will attach their bathroom key to. It is to be returned to where it was hanging for the next person who can't hold it in any longer or just must go. Purpose isn't a resource that we get to hoard or stockpile. It is one of the many seeds that can grow if tended to properly. To see a UFO, or at least for a moment think you have, or to hear your name through a ghost box or ITC device, or to capture a thermal image of a large bipedal creature in the woods. These are less mainstream ways to feel one of these jolts, or to capture one of these seeds or keys in your hands, but yet they still exist. So I guess the point here is you should see fish live if you have the chance. You might just find yourself planting seeds or grabbing keys while your body grooves to the tunes of the collective frequency of love. Now, there is something interesting that fish does. And this was the first time I'd seen fish, and I am not a stranger to their music. I've never been a fish head. I've never been a roly-poly, right? But I am very familiar with their music and have been since, I guess, the late 90s, when some close friends of mine were huge fish heads. Now, I've always been more into the Grateful Dead or, music like that. I guess I never really made the giant jump over. It's not even a giant, it's a small step over to being a fish head. But it was an incredible, incredible concert. And I'd never been to the Hollywood Bowl either, and the Hollywood Bowl is a beautiful outdoor venue. It was a little chilly, but it wasn't bad. It was kind of cloudy, and then I told my buddy Dave Waite, who was there with me, I told him by the end of this concert, I'm going to explode all these clouds. And sure enough, by the end of the concert, it was practically a completely clear sky. Now, did I do that with my mind? Probably helped. I thought I saw a UFO there last night towards the very end, and I was expecting it, in fact. I kept looking up to the sky. Like I said, I had a little help with some other things along the way to kind of get into a magical groove, so to speak. And so, there's a light in the sky. And it's moving around unexpectedly, jolting, jagging, and then disappearing, then reappearing. And a very funny comedian, J.F. Harris, was there as well. He's the one who hooked us up with tickets. It was incredible. His buddy Josh. We had a great crew, and ran into a bunch of other comedians at the show. It was a wonderful night. But and then JF goes, I think it's a bat, because they had two huge spotlights crisscrossing the sky, making an X, and it was a bat or a bird, probably a bat, flying around through the light, and that's why it would disappear, because it was out of the light, so it would be gone. And so by the next time it came back through, I'm like, there it is, and I'm looking at Dave, and Dave's a little, Dave's also grooving into the cosmic goodness, right? So he's just like, because he's kind of a skeptical guy, right? So I was like, I get to, because one of my intentions that I had set that night was at the very beginning of the show was I would love for us all to share a skywatch experience, a UFO experience. I think that is the only real way to convince a skeptic that they're there and they're happening all the time, all over the world for everybody, is to kind of help them have that experience. So I'm setting that intention, right? And then it starts happening, and I'm like I'm like a kid in a candy store on Christmas morning. But sure enough, I believe that JF was right, and that it was indeed a bat, unfortunately, or a bird flying through the big tractor beam spotlights that they had, crisscrossing the sky. They were static lights. I mean, they weren't moving, they weren't scanning the sky, so they were just always there. But I mean, I thought we had it because it was low in the sky. It was in that spot. It was doing the movements that, well, this isn't a satellite, this isn't a plane, this isn't a helicopter. Anyway, that was a pretty fun moment. Anyway, that's why I'm referencing what I had read at the beginning here about even if you think you saw a UFO, it locks you into a momentary magic of the now. And, it ignites, at the very least, a flame that could burn into a passion later. And that, and passions often I associate with purpose, the right kind of passions anyway. So Fish does something very interesting. That's very woo-woo to me. And I don't even know if they're trying to do it on purpose, but partly I believe it's definitely intentional. We got there, I don't know, 5 o'clock. A little before 5 p.m., we were out on the street, maybe found some balloons, if you know what I mean. And then, ran into an old comedian friend on the street, did some interview on the street type stuff, which I don't know if it'll ever be, if what I said will ever make the cut. But part of me is like, I almost hope we were talking about. Anyway, we don't need to talk about what we were talking about. So we were there for, I don't know, roughly 5.5 hours. And it was just incredible experience. Fish starts playing probably right before 7 p.m., even 6:30 start time, but they started probably right around 7. And they just kind of walk out on stage, pick up their instruments, and they start jamming. They don't even say, "What's up, Los Angeles?" Hollywood Bowl, blah, blah, blah. And it's the last show of the tour, of their little spring tour that they're doing. Throughout the whole, and then they take a set break, and they come back out and they play for like another 2 hours. They wrapped up around 10:20 p.m., right? Because the curfew's at 10:30 out there. And they never once addressed the audience on the microphones. They never once talked to us. And that might not seem strange, but if you've ever been to a concert or a music show, that is part of it with almost every single band or musician you will ever see. Now, the reason I bring this up is because it's not like it was stood out as weird to me. Like, why didn't they do that? I had zero problem with it. Because I feel like, and they've been around, 30 plus years. I feel like they've established a dialogue. And they don't need to verbalize it. There is a conversation going specifically with, I don't know how many thousand people were there. Everybody there was grooving. Everybody there was jamming. Nobody there was not having a good time, unless they maybe took too many psychedelics. But it was an ocean of waves, of grooves. I mean, from the second they started till the second they stopped at the end of the night. There's a conversation that's already happening between the audience, the band, and the music. And there's something about it all, and I've never experienced this really before, even at Dead & Company or even at the Grateful Dead. Back in the 90s when I was at a Grateful Dead show in Buckeye Lake, Ohio. But I've never experienced that, where there's just no direct communication from the musicians to the crowd. And honestly, I thought it was pretty cool. The music, the energy, everything, all the years that they've been doing this, all of that was was the foundation of a relationship that they've built with the music, with the audience, with the energy. Even if it's your first Fish show, you're kind of grandfathered in as soon as that first note hits. You're grandfathered into this conversation that is happening. And it's one of these conversations where you just get to listen. And the second thing was, it occurred to me that it was very, very seldom, and the only time I really did it, it was when I realized that I hadn't done it. Looking at the stage, watching the performance. There wasn't very much of that. Usually when I'm in a concert or a show or something, I'm watching the person who's performing, who's delivering the performance, or the people, right? It was strange. I wasn't doing that. And now, granted, we were kind of high up, but at the same time, they have two big screens. Every once in a while I look at the screens just because I noticed that the lights were different with your bare eye as opposed to being, broadcast on the large screens through cameras that are, built into the venue. I wasn't watching the show. I was feeling the show the whole time. And it was remarkable. Now, it was a really magical moment. I hadn't been to a concert. Probably the last concert I went to was Trampled by Turtles, and they had one of my favorite, who are one of my favorite bands, and one of my other favorite bands, Camp. That's with two A's, CAAMP, originally out of Athens, Ohio area, if I'm not mistaken. They were opening, and it was at Red Rocks, which is, my partner at the time, she bought me tickets for my birthday. We went. It was probably the best birthday gift I've ever been given in my life. It was bonkers. Now, that's probably the last big concert I went to, and I was a little more anxious about that one because it was like right out of the pandemic, so huge crowds and things like that, but it was incredible. It was amazing. This concert last night was also amazing. I don't go to a ton of concerts because I have a little bit of that, big crowd anxiety. But I think I need to just stop telling that narrative and just barrel through it and get over it, because I love that. I really, really enjoyed myself. And a couple balloons and little, other help. Ice cold is also helpful in those situations. But so that's just a recap of what happened last night, which was really incredible. Now, if you're an old time listener to the show, you know that, well, you might not know, but we're going to be doing video, I think, every damn episode moving forward. I'll be doing my darndest to make sure that happens. And we got big news coming up soon, regarding the show that I think is worthy of being excited about. I can't give you those details quite yet, but it will be getting there. There is something happening over here. What it is ain't exactly clear, but it is happening, and I'm super excited to be a part of this thing. And it has implications that will play themselves out into other ways. I think it's something to be super excited about. And, I hate to keep teasing this for you, but there's details that need to be ironed out that haven't quite been ironed out all the way yet. So we'll get there, and then it'll happen, and I can't wait to share that with you. I do have to tell you that the clairvoyance, I went and saw SpectreVision Radio put on a medium roundtable over the weekend as well. So I went to that Friday night. A big weekend Friday night. Did that. Saturday night did a show with my old buddy Mark Marin at the Dynasty Typewriter. Sunday saw Fish. I mean, what a weekend, right? Mediumship, comedy, grooves. What else can you want in one weekend? Pretty jam-packed. So we're trying to get work done. I've got notes on most of my book, Shapeshifter, that I will be getting out to you at some point this year, before the end of the year. I can almost guarantee that to you. My dear friend Matthew Shelton, and brilliant musician, has been fastidiously, with great detail, going over and editing the hell out of my book for me. So I'm not jumping tents, and I'm, makes sense, and just giving me overall great notes. I'm very excited. I'll be digging into that tonight, probably later, all day tomorrow, and the next day, trying to get caught up on these edits so I can get this book out to you. The tour is building out this summer, mid-June through mid to late August. So go to ryansingercomedy.com. You can find tickets there. The Monroe Gateway Voyage meditation program, we're still in full swing. The clairvoyance is upticking. The whether it's premonitions, I think I'm kind of getting the premonition vibe here. Now, this might not sound like much, but to those who know, they know. Now, one of the interesting things about the Medium Roundtable, someone had asked, like, if you have advice for someone who is, embracing their clairvoyance or their clairsentience or their clairaudience, whatever it is, their clair ability or their ESP, psychic abilities, what is the advice that you would give? And one of them said, just take notice. Just start taking notice, like on purpose, and not just always brushing it off to the side as if it wasn't anything. And I think that's great advice. And in the past, because I know I've been doing that. For example, I'm going to give you that example as soon as we get back from our break. We do have to try to keep the candles lit around here. So candles are not cheap lately, if you've noticed that. This candle here was given to me by a friend, if you're watching. And apparently when it all burns down, the inside of that picture is something else. So it's like a dolphin on the outside. And I think Angela Lovell, who I think you all know, gave me that candle. And I'm pretty sure it's a dolphin on the outside and a naked lady on the inside. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that's what Angela said. So we're burning that thing down as fast as we can. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer. $3 a month gets you no commercials. And we'll be right back. We're going to talk about my clairvoyance. We're going to talk about your ESP and more. And we're back. Hey, everybody, we're back. Again, thank you for listening to the podcast. Truly appreciate you. We're in 12 plus years, 800 plus episodes, and we're still having one heck of a time. Can't believe where we've ended up. And specifically to that point, I never thought I'd be doing a guided meditation program necessarily that was trying to help me learn how to astral travel, have out-of-body experiences, as Monroe would call them, and remote view, etc., amongst other things. Understanding that we are more than our physical body. So it is right in my wheelhouse as someone who fancies himself an idealist, an uneducated idealist at that. But I want to talk to you about how this is activating and is helping me further embrace my own intuition and my own clair ability. Now, it sounds, and this is a recurring theme that comes up with a lot of people who are embracing their abilities. It's like, I know I probably sound crazy. People probably think I sound crazy, whatever. You just have to lean into it, right? So I had no problem leaning into the idea that I could tell people that I dated a woman who could shapeshift. What sounds crazier if you were to ask yourself, like, would you rather tell people you dated a woman who could shapeshift, or that you're having, psychic abilities more and more that you've embraced and are aware of? I don't know why I feel weirder about the psychic thing. It's probably maybe opposite of what other people, maybe I'm wrong about that. Nonetheless, there's this there's this walk hike. So I just combined walk and hike. There's this wike. That sounds weird. There's a walk /hike /jog that I do here in my neighborhood, right? There's something pretty close, a couple miles away, called the Culver City Steps. And there's stairs, and these outdoor steps that are kind of built into the side of this large hill. So it's a great exercise for people, and so people go do it all day long. So I can do about 2 miles. And I can get there and I can do the steps once or twice. I've never done them 3 times. I should, that's next on my list. And then come back and I can do about a 5+ mile round tripper. I used to go a certain way, and it was about a 5 mile round tripper because I could always pass through and stop at a Target on the way back to my house, which, I'm a super snowflake. I haven't been to Target since November of last year or whatever, January of this year. Since the boycott started, I'm doing that. So I don't shop at Target anymore. I haven't been in there. So now I had to find a different way just to I need variety, right? I need to mix it up. So I found a ramp to the LA River, but this section of it is called Bologna Creek. And I saw people biking there. I'm like, how do you get down there? And then these other ways. So I started mixing it up and I started going a different way. Now there's about a 7.5 mile loop I can do. That's it takes me about, a little over 2 hours probably to do it. Or I can supercharge it and I can go almost 10 miles on it, right? Which I've done once and highly recommend. It took me about 3 hours or whatever it was. Now, so I'm doing this like bike path, like walkway kind of thing on the LA River area, Bologna Creek, and I'll be on there for maybe 1.5 miles. And I've done it a bunch of times. Never once have I been passed by more than 1 or 2 people on a bike at the same time. It's usually just a biker, right? I'm walking. So this is what happened. Saturday night, I'm kind of up late because I have a really fun show with my buddy Mark, and, we go out and we get vegan milkshakes afterwards at a diner, you know me. And so then I get home, I'm a little jazzed up, I'm a little jacked up on caffeine, because when I do go out, or if I'm doing shows, I do let myself have some like Diet Coke or whatever, even though I don't keep it at home or any of that anymore. So I'm mostly off of it unless I'm out doing something like that. I'm all jacked up, I'm all jazzed up, right? I mean, because he's, it was a theater, it's sold out, it was really fun. I mean, so I'm living my best life, right? I'm up kind of late, hoping to sleep in pretty late so I can have my energy for the Fish concert. I wake up at 6 a.m. I cannot fall back asleep. So I get out of bed around 6:45 a.m. after sleeping for like 2 hours. Make some coffee, do some writing, go for a walk. Around 8:30, I decide to go do this walk. I'm doing this walk, and as I'm like, it's interesting. Would I have to like run up the side of this slant to like this concrete embankment that's at an angle to get out of the way? Like, I had this idea where there was like all these bikers, and they were like, I had to jump up on that wall to get out of the way. So I find myself kind of just, without even realizing it, scooting over to the far right of the path as I'm walking. After I have this moment, I'm like, oh, that's weird. That's an interesting thing. I'm like, that's probably going to happen. And I know enough now to stop disregarding such feelings that are different than just random thoughts. And trying to explain the difference between these two things can be difficult. One of them, let's just say a random thought. A random thought is a random thought and poof, it's gone. Sometimes it hangs around a little bit, bats around, bounces around, but it's gone. This thought had a different energy, had a different like signature to it. And it kind of sticks a little more. Think of the difference between a super ball bouncing around an empty concrete room and a ball made of that sticky stuff, right? That those little hands that you can, and the hand they'll stick to stuff, You know what I don't know what it's called, but it's that sticky stuff where you go, and then, right? So imagine a super ball, a bouncy ball made of that stuff. That's what this thought was. And the thoughts that typically end up being, predictive of a future event that is happening somewhat pretty soon, usually for me. It's usually within the next hour or so. That ball sticks a little more just when it's bouncing around your head as a thought. It's just boink. Sorry about the sound effects. It's probably pretty gross. Now, anyway, so that's the difference. That's what this thought was of all these bikers, and I had to run up the side of it. I'm like, am I going to be able to stay up on the, angled embankment of concrete here? Are my shoes, my hiking feet, as I call them, my mountain feet. I've been using them for a year or so, and when you hike regularly or you're out running on concrete regularly, those shoes they'll lose their grip relatively fast, quickly. So And so I just kind of like, oh, that's interesting. I find myself kind of moving over to the right of the thing. And then boom, wouldn't you know it, about 15 minutes, not even 15 minutes later, I hear, on your left, on your left. I hear like 6 different voices going, on your left, on your left, on your left. And it was just, there was probably about 10 cyclists who passed me all in a row, like very, very fast. And I was on the far right side of the path at the time. But, and I have headphones, but they're over the ear. They're not inside the ear. And so I could hear, right? But anyway, as soon as it happened, I was like, oh, there it was. I knew that was happening. Now, granted, the sticky thought that bounced around was different. It's where I had to jump up the wall, right? But now, if I hadn't subconsciously moved over to the far right, scooted myself over to the far right of the path, even though I was by myself out there, was it possible that, it could have had an accident? I don't know. See, it's not like a super important thing. It's not a meaningful event that happened. But nonetheless, it was a thought I had never had previously. And I have it, and I'm like, that's weird that it's kind of sticking around up there like these other thoughts have. And then boom, 10 minutes later, whatever it is, because I'm only on that path for maybe 25 minutes the other day. I didn't do the long loop. Maybe 10 minutes later, boom, 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 boom. And so I'm just like, I just start laughing. And I wasn't in a great mood. Full disclosure, I was not in a great mood at the time because I'm sleep deprived. I'm kind of cranky. I've got a couple cups of coffee inside of me just because I'm like, I got to stay up for a little bit so I can take a nap before the concert. And so I was one of those things where I'm like, am I so sleep deprived? I'm just like, ugh, like nothing's great. Nothing's good. You know what I mean? So I was in one of those kind of moods. That's when I knew I was like, I got to get outside because I'm being like in a bad mood for no good reason other than I'm sleep deprived. And then boom, it worked. And then as soon as that happens, boom, I just start laughing out. I'm laughing out loud like a maniac. Now, there's other things that have been occurring that are unexplainable to me. For example, at the show on Saturday, something happened on stage with my buddy's drink while he was performing. And as soon as he said something, as soon as it happened, I instantly was like, he's gonna need me to bring him a drink. So I go to the green room real quick. I grab a Diet Coke out of the fridge, and I'm literally walking up to the stage from the back, getting ready to come around the curtain to the corner. I'm going to figure out, I'm like, should I just interrupt him while he's doing that? And as I'm walking up the steps that lead to this back curtain area where you can't see me, but the curtain's on the back of the stage, I hear him go, "Hey Ryan, if you're back there, can you bring me out another soda or whatever?" And boom, and I emerged instantly as soon as he said it, and the crowd was just like, "Whoa!" It was like they thought it was a magic trick. I mean, that's how perfect the timing was. They thought it was a magic trick. Now you could argue I've known this guy for 13, 14 years, 15 years, whatever it's been, and we're friends and we've known each other. We've been through a lot together. So I just know him, right? You could argue that. Or telepathy is real, which is, I already understood that his thoughts, that I was ahead of his out loud thoughts or his speaking, right? So I was already there. Something weird happened to me the other night. I was fine. It was Friday, or I think it was Thursday night. Totally fine. I feel good, feel great. Just kind of taking a day off because my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday were bonkers. I was pretty worn out. I was kind of tired. I get off the couch around 9:45. I come upstairs. I'm getting ready to do a gateway voyage, and I'm doing meditation. And in that moment, I realized, I forgot something. And I like to lie down. I like to lay down when I'm doing it to be comfortable. And I start to move up, and I get incredibly dizzy. Now, I promise this story is weirder than you think it's going to be right now by the end of it. And I get incredibly dizzy, almost to the point where I'm nauseous. I stand up out of bed, and I fall over almost. I start stumbling around like I'm totally intoxicated or something. I cannot keep my balance. sit back down on the bed, and I'm like, am I going to get sick? Maybe I should go to the bathroom. I get up, I stumble, like holding the wall the whole time to the bathroom. I don't get sick, even though I feel incredibly overheated all of a sudden. I come back in, I get a trash bag ready, put it on a chair, and put it next to my bed, so I have something to throw up into, and I'm waiting there to throw up. And I'm like, don't make yourself throw up. I will do that in rare occasions. If I know I'm going to get sick and I just want to get it over with, I will make myself throw up. But that's a rare occasion. So I laid back down, and every few minutes I keep trying to move just to see, and sure enough, so I have no idea. I don't know if this is anywhere akin to what people who suffer from vertigo experience, but it was insane. I was like, I must have eaten something bad. And so me and my buddy, Dave, ate the same thing. So I'm like, I couldn't even text. I couldn't even get on my phone to text. I was, however, able to lay there and I was like, you know what? A meditation will probably make me feel better. So I did one of the Gateway Voyage meditations. And I was fine during the meditation. And it was over. Boom. And then I go to bed. I go to sleep. Eventually, I fall asleep. I wake up the next day. I don't know what time it was exactly. But I wake up and I'm fine. And I didn't get sick the night before. I didn't end up throwing up or anything. I feel kind of okay, right? I feel pretty hollow inside for some weird reason. Like I was almost kind of like I was just a husk. I get up and I'm leaving my bedroom and, to do our thing, right? You go take a pee. First thing you wake up, probably. I don't know what you do. That's usually my routine. I can't get out of my room. My door is locked. My door is locked from the inside. So I'm like doing this thing, right? I'm like jangling the door and it won't open. And I realize the door is locked. Not only have I never locked my bedroom door before, since I've been living at this house, I wasn't even completely, if you would have asked me before that moment, did my bedroom door have a lock on it? I probably would have said, I don't know. That's a good question. I've never looked. Now I have a rack on the back of the door where I hang coats and sweatshirts, and they usually hang down over the door handle. So I don't even see the door handle most times. So I don't even know, right? And my bedroom door was locked. And I unlocked it and went on with my day. But I shot a short video of that. And you know what? Maybe I'll insert that here since we're doing video now, just so you can hear me like in the moment, just being like, what the fuck? I think it's only like a 5-second video. Let's do that here. I've never locked this door. Okay, so that's the video of me, and the video and audio of me trying to, just showing that I didn't know that. Now I don't know what that means, and I'm not saying that it is related to anything paranormal or some kind of strange phenomena, but what I am saying is, how the hell in God's green earth did my bedroom door get locked when I was down for the count, completely nauseous? Well, I mean, medium level nauseous, but totally unable to even walk in a straight line without like leaning on walls and things like that. And somehow I got up in the middle of the night in that state, and I locked my door and laid back down. Now, I will concede one fact here. I did a lot of sleepwalking when I was younger, and I would actually go do activities while sleepwalking. Now, I haven't, to the best of my knowledge, sleptwalked in probably at least 25 years. If I had to guess, it's probably about 25 years. I don't know. Does anyone have a read on that? Why do we stop sleepwalking if we're a sleepwalker? I don't know what happens to where we stop sleepwalking. If anybody knows anything about that, I should look into that a little more. But the point is, there's weird stuff happening, and it's happening all the time. And now it's happening on almost a daily basis. And to me, that is not a bad thing. To be clear, this is not a bad thing. It is, I think, resultant from tapping more into and becoming more aware of and ultimately acknowledging when the strangeness is more than just something strange. When it's a little more sticky of a bouncy ball, bouncing around. And I think if we pay attention to that, if we are cognizant of it, and if we afford ourselves enough grace, right, to embrace, we just need, have the grace to embrace this weird part of ourselves. If you have the grace to embrace the weirdness inside of you and the abilities that maybe once upon a time you wouldn't really consider to be who you are, but in fact have been there latent this whole time or just ignored, I think the strangeness, the weirdness does start happening more and more because it's been happening the whole time, but we just weren't aware of it. Now, it should be benefiting you. That's the point, I think, too. It should be making your life better. We can talk more about that after this last break. Remember, patreon.com/Ryan Singer. That is the Patreon. $3 a month gets you no commercials. And we're going to be right back. And we're back. Okay, so we're talking about having the grace to embrace the weirdness inside of you. It will pop up more often. It will show up more often. And it's because you're aware of it, because you're paying attention. Now, I do want to show you, I've got the Disclosure Project briefing document here, 2025, that Dr. Stephen Greer's team has submitted to the current administration, and they pretty much do every administration, one way or the other. But this is just the most recent one. There's a section, there's an entire section on power generation systems utilizing space-time expansion. Well, this is one of them, a power generation system utilizing space-time expansion, which is quite interesting. Some of it is redacted. But let me just give you a brief read on the description of this, because I think it is interesting. When you try to frame, I know we're kind of doing a hard pivot here after the commercial, but I want to kind of get into, I want to get through more of this book for you, because I know not everybody's out there spending $45 on this or whatever it is, and so at the time, I've built a kind of life where I'm such a weirdo. I at least in this moment I have the time for it. So let's just give you the description here, and we're going to rap about it. And we're going to talk about the implications and what does this mean moving forward. What does it mean for what society looks like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, when things like this are already real and potentially might be released out into the wild where they have belonged all along. So the proposed power generation system is based upon the fact that Lorentz force in certain conditions can be non-conservative, thus indicating the important relationship to open systems and hence external forces. In this particular application, there is a frame of reference shift between bound ions and conduction electrons in a conducting medium. To create an optimal frame of reference shift, it is important to set up an asymmetry of the electrical field and establish a leakage current through a conductor and a dielectric, which also serves to store charge. So like a battery kind of thing, right? This will result in a force that can be used in power generation systems. This can be accomplished with asymmetric capacitors, utilizing corona generated in air as a leaky dielectric and a non-leaky dielectric for storing charge. This combination of dielectrics is straightforward but ungainly and results in structural mass that is not part of the resulting force. Utilizing corona as a leaky dielectric is expedient. However, it is very inefficient and consumes a tremendous amount of power. A bifilar pendulum can be used to measure generated force with respect to voltage and current, and a rotor can be used to measure the instantaneous power generated in rotation when balanced against a calibrated drag. In the proposed effort, a pendulum and rotor will be utilized. The performance of the asymmetrical capacitors is directly related to the nature of the materials and geometries that will be employed. For example, purity of materials, surface area with respect to volume, and cross-sectional areas will be investigated. Analytic models will be constructed to ascertain trends in performance in order to facilitate the design of first-generation structures using the asymmetric capacitative force. Now you can go see the full document over at dpiarchive.com. And it's followed by an article about invention secrecy still going strong, which was written in 2010, 15 years ago. There were 5,135 inventions that were under secrecy orders at the end of fiscal year 2010. The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office told Secrecy News last week it's a 1% rise over the year before and the highest total in more than a decade. Under the Secrecy Act of 1951, patent applications on new inventions can be subject to secrecy orders restricting their publication if government agencies believe that disclosure would be, quote, detrimental to national security. So, I mean, I could just keep reading, but that was a 1% increase, right? So just over 5,100 was a 1% increase. So what's that? It's 51.35. So there were 5,000 the year before that were also under secrecy orders. And I think this is at the heart, this gets to the heart and soul of what the disclosure problem is and always has been and has become. You have this idea of secrecy and national security. They go hand in hand. And with that comes the gatekeeping of technology, of inventions that are, life-changing. I mean, there's a great example of J.P. Morgan pulls the funding from Tesla because Tesla's energy system that he had invented, the free energy thing, it wasn't, let me see if I can get the phrasing correct. Remember off the top of my head, you probably know this. It wasn't easily metered, meaning it wasn't easy to measure usage on an individual basis to be able to charge money to profit from. So therefore, it was pulled. Funding was pulled. This is the great problem of, I suppose, of capitalism when it comes to everything else. I mean, I think disclosure is a very complicated issue, and capitalism is one of the large components, even though there has been a lack of disclosure in places that are not operating under capitalism. Although if you look at the world's economy, the world market, there are aspects of capitalism everywhere around the world, even if it's socialist, communist, whatever, fascist, the list goes on. Capitalism, the free market, is the dictator of so many things around the world. It dictates what happens and how it flows and how it goes. And it affects all of our lives in a majorly impactful way. And we're seeing that now with, the tariffs and all these other things. We are seeing just how drastic the effect. The market really controls everything in this world. And because we're silly. Right, because we're these silly creatures who, for some reason, are obsessed with the accumulation of wealth and goods, much more than we need. At least the people who are psychopathic enough to feel like they should be in charge of everyone else. These are the people who are hyper obsessed with that, and they are, unfortunately, they're not sure on energy. And or motivation to do it. And I don't know what motivates some of these people, and I suppose we'll never understand what motivates a psychopath. But the problem is the rest of us aren't obsessed with this in a way that will affect global culture. And it's, we all just want to, feel safe. We all want to be happy, and we all want to, love and be loved. At the end of the day, be cared for, be able to care for others, things like that. So I don't understand what it'll take other than the groundswell of something like the Disclosure Project to really, really start pushing and enacting change. And it's been going on for 35 years, plus with Dr. Greer and his people, over 750 different whistleblowers are listed by name. I mean, I think a couple of their names are missing in this book. Over 700 whistleblowers by name in this book. There are people out there fighting the good fight when it comes to this specific issue. And I think people are like, there's a lot going on in the world. How can you be so obsessed with this? And it's like, well, we all have to have our lane. And I also happen to believe that this is probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest things in the history of human existence that could be disclosed, accepted, and integrated into our unfolding history moving forward. It truly does change everything, much like we've talked about over and over and over again on here. In the world of the paranormal, there are two main highways that cross through the dead center of it, and that is UFO Boulevard. I guess highway's not a boulevard, but UFO Avenue and Ghost Boulevard, Ghost Street, Ghost, whatever you want to call them, Boulevard Street, Ghost Street and UFO Avenue. These two are the main, that's downtown. That's the downtown intersection of the paranormal. And everything else are these other neighborhoods, right? Like Bigfoot's in a neighborhood pretty close to the center. Portal's probably pretty close to the center too. All these other things. ESP, precognition, clairvoyance, all these other things. These neighborhoods in paranormal town. So once we address or accept that death isn't final, physical death isn't final, isn't the end of life. And once we also embrace that we are not alone in the intergalactic neighborhood, everything about the existence of a human being changes. Now, will you still have to sleep, eat, use the bathroom, get horny, all those other things? Of course, because you're still a physical being. But we are moving toward a future, according to those in the psychic know, where, verbal communication isn't even really a thing anymore. Although I think music will still be a thing. It has to be. Music is too wonderful. It's too beautiful. It's too transcendent. I don't have all the answers on the small details about how all these things happen. But I will tell you this. It's exciting to think about that this is happening. This is unfolding in front of the United States Congress through these hearings, and it is slow, and it is drip, drip, drip slow right now. It's hard to fill up a bathtub of joy when the faucet is just a one drip at a time. But better to have a drip than having the water turned off. And more and more people are capturing things. I am seeing UFOs almost regularly. Every time I hang out with my buddy Daniel, we're capturing something. We're seeing something in the sky. It's, and he's going to be back on the show soon. And we'll definitely have to show the footage that we got last time we were sky watching. It was he and I together. We'll definitely have that footage. I'll definitely show the video of that. I mean, I'm saying definitely, and I haven't talked to him about it yet, but we're definitely going to do that when he's on the program again, on the show. So, but the point is, this has been going on for a while, and this is why I think it's slow. Reading from this, right? We're talking about 2010, 15 years ago. And now, granted, think about how many years have passed since then, 15 years. So 15, let's just say it holds steady and doesn't increase. These secrecy requests on patents, that's 15 times 5 is what? 75. So add a 0, 0, 0 onto that. So what is that? 7,500. It's 75,000. So what now you have in the last 15 years, let's just say the number held steady, 75,000 patents that were filed have been deemed too secret to be broadcast about because of national security by some government officials. Now, obviously, you can put the pieces together of this very probably simple puzzle that they are advanced technology or they are breakthroughs in technology that would either threaten someone's monopoly on the market of energy or combustion or, engines or clean water. I don't want to get too conspiratorial and talk about medicine, cures for certain things and things like that. Because no one becomes a doctor and no one becomes a nurse. No one enters the healthcare world to be like, I'm going to get super rich and we're going to keep people sick. That's not what these people are doing. It's nauseating to hear over and over and over again. It's like their job is to keep you sick, man. And I'm not saying that big pharma doesn't want you on their pills making money over and over and over for the rest of your life. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is this. I can guarantee you, without even knowing them, 99.9%, okay, I'll even give you the 0.1% for the psychos that filter in. 99.9% of people who enter in to the healthcare profession aren't thinking to themselves, I can't wait to keep people sick forever. I can't wait. I can't wait for that so I can just get rich and work the craziest hours. I can only imagine what it's like to be a healthcare professional and hearing that all the time. Not to mention there's many of little faith in the healthcare system anymore with science and vaccines and all these other things. But at the end of the day, we are living longer than we ever have. We are able to cure more diseases than we ever have as each year passes. It seems that in general, just to have some perspective and take a step back from all the, the drudge and the conspiracy of it all, in general, the medical field has done what it set out to do, and that is to cure and extend life. And you can, better quality of life while you're still alive. My stepdad just had a bunch of electrodes put in his back, and it's helping him for the first time in a decade. He's able to get around relatively pain-free. These are some of the examples, right? So, but you can be darn tootin' that these secrecy requests on patents, because of national security specifically, are advanced technology and breakthroughs in technology that would probably decentralize the power when it comes to those who have the power and all the wealth when it comes to energy systems specifically in the world. And if we keep pushing and if we keep talking about it and if we keep believing and not giving up hope and becoming too jaded and becoming violent or whatever else, we will get there. We will get there as a people. And I'm excited about that. And I hope you are too, because it is unfolding now. And now, will I live long enough to see it all happen? I think I've got at least another 40 in me. So that's a whole nother life, right? So who knows what will happen? I'll probably be who knows what I'll be by the time I'm dead. I might be a professor. I might go back to grad school at 48 years old. Who knows? But anyway, this was the first official video moving forward of the podcast. We're going to be doing video every week. So you'll be able to watch that on Spotify, not on the YouTubes. At least I don't think. I don't know. We're going to see how it all shakes out, but this is the first video one through the Spotify, because I'm an old person. RyanSingerComedy.com. That's got all the tour dates. I love you. I hope you love yourself, and I hope to see you at a live show soon. And if I don't, I'll see you here on the next video, on the next episode, or I'll see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.